I'll share my screen. So hopefully everyone can see that screen. It says the Land Empire Blueprint. Your path to success starts here. Give me a thumbs up or say some, or can you see it, Frank? Yeah, good.
Yeah,
Excellent. Great, great, great.
it's a
All right,
lovely
cool.
first screen it is.
Indeed, yes. Well, welcome to day two. And day two is all about how you find counties and how you then market to them and pull this. So we're going to do some live demos and kind of see some of the tools that we use and how we use them. So yeah, it's going to be pretty exciting. Uh, and again, if you do have questions, please do put them in the chat bar, which you should see towards the bottom of your screen, somewhere in the middle. Just click on the chat, put the question in. Happy to answer them. And we are recording this as well. So if you have any questions later on and you've watched the recording, you can just put them in the Facebook group. We're very happy to answer them. Let's get kicked off. Talking about market selection. I actually want to kick off with this bit, Frank, because I'm going to be doing a lot of the technical analysis here. So, I mean, we've done lots of market selection over the years, whole host of things. But I mean, for you, in terms of looking at it from the sales perspective, why is it so important?
Well, this is really where the tire hits the road, so to speak, because choosing the right market is just everything when it comes to land flipping. I mean, you could have all the scripts, all the software, all the letters, all the ringless voicemails and text messages that you want. But if you don't have the right area, you're good and buggered, basically. I mean, the wrong choice can lead you to overpriced land that nobody wants, and just wasting a lot of your time and money. Now, the right market, this is the fun part, is the opposite in that it makes for fast, easy flips. Like you want to turn your money. We're able to turn our money two and three times a year easily. That means two or three round trips per dollar, um, into a deal, out of one, back into a deal, back in, out of that, back into the next one. So strategic selection really is the cornerstone, the fundamental piece of any successful land business, including ours. And we've spent some good money to get a properly kitted out with the software and so forth to really be able to dial in. And again, though, Matthew, like you said yesterday, there's no magic bullets. It always takes a wee bit of work, but the software makes it ever so much easier than just when we started out, the instructions were go look at a map and draw a circle of so many mile radius around the map, and that's where you want to start from. So this is a bit more sophisticated as you're going to illustrate for us, Matthew.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think uh, the one thing I would say about market selection, which is important for everyone on the call and anyone listening to this later on, is it matters, but it doesn't matter that much that you can not take action. And what I mean by that is some people we've worked with in the past and some folks that Frank has been on masterminds with, because we used to host a few masterminds, have still not taken action 12, 18 months later because they're looking for a magic pill, which doesn't exist. So the kind of tools and strategies we're going to show you tonight do work. We're going to show you I guess, the less sophisticated version, because that's the version that we would be teaching and do teach our students because it's the easiest one to get into. Uh, and when you're, say, dealing with hundreds of leads, this is what's going to work for you for sure. We are dealing with tens of thousands of leads, so we're on a slightly different level in terms of what we're doing. So we use much more sophisticated software they're going to show you tonight, although we will be working with and showing that to anyone that comes on board and works with us going forward. But the fundamentals are always the same. and they don't really change. Whether you're using sophisticated software that basically all it's doing is automating that process and making it quicker for you, or you're doing it the manual way. And what we're going to show you today is the manual way, which still works, and it's still a fantastic way in. It just means you have a bit of, I guess, input to do versus nowadays we're doing that in a much quicker manner. So when we look at strategically selecting your market, it is really important that you understand the difference between the markets that are out there because these do differ dramatically. So again, I don't know if you'd like to just talk a little bit about this, Frank, in terms of, you know, this, the top, mid, and emerging markets, because one of the things we did when we first started was really do a lot of deep dives into some of these markets and how they differ. So, I mean, maybe you could give some examples of, where we don't buy, for instance, which is very much an area that you could make money in versus the kind of areas we're looking to get into.
Well, I'll be happy to answer that last one first. You would think all 50 states would be equal. That is not the case. We find that the Sun Belt, in other words, the Southeast and the Southwest, and to a lesser extent the Midwest and the Northwest, have done best for us. Now, that's not to say you can't make money in places like New York, Maine, New Hampshire, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts. It's just uh, the numbers are just they're more mature markets. They've been around longer. They're also smaller states in the main, so there's less land to buy as a whole. Um, Whereas, Texas, South Carolina, New Mexico, Arizona, places like that, they're essentially almost evergreen. I mean, you can come back to them every few months and you'll still never come close really to totally covering that particular market. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, an example of a top tier market would be places that are quite saturated and established, such as California. Definitely very high demand, lots of buyers, always things going in and out of the market, very strong appreciation, but also very difficult to get into. Versus, you look more at the mid tier, and these will be places such as, say, Texas, which is very popular, Florida as well, where you've got competition for sure. The growth is a lot more steadier, but you can get into them easier. Emerging markets really come down to doing a lot of analysis and seeing what works. So some of the areas you mentioned, like the Carolinas, good emerging markets, also, places like Colorado, Washington State, they're still coming through. They're still quite low entry cost to get into, but also there's growth potential there because certainly one of the things I experienced after being out in the States for nearly 2 months is the energy, is the amount of construction going on, the amount of new roads being built, houses, and all of that leads to opportunities for us as land investors because people need somewhere to go, whether that's to build themselves or to obviously off sale to a builder. So very important that you get the right market. And we kind of have a 3 point system that we look at to make sure that we are getting the right gold mine. And this effectively boils down into three areas: demand, supply, and margin. Now, all of these are fairly easy to find out. It's one of the differences between the UK property market and the US is all of this information is pretty much available to you for either free, although a bit time intensive in terms of gathering it, or very low cost if you're using automation or software. So the demand piece is all about identifying active buyers and sellers in the market, and it's trying to understand where that demand pulls through into, where the interest is and potential for profitable transactions, and how fast you're going to be able to actually sell the land. So one of the factors that we're looking at is looking at the demand and the supply and looking at the sell-through rate. And we'll show you how to calculate that a bit later on. Now, on the supply side, obviously we want to be looking at lots that are available for sale. Now, there's no point us going into, say, a market where we've got, say, good demand and we've had, say, I don't know, 50, 80 sales in the last year. And remember, this is a county level. So if we compare it to, say, uh, the UK market, this is, say, looking at just Hampshire, but then going into Hampshire, and probably shouldn't have chosen that because I don't know it as well. I'm going to go for Yorkshire instead. So choosing Yorkshire as like a state, obviously it's the motherland, but then going down and looking at, well, what's happening in Bradford, what's happening in York, what's happening in Doncaster, what's happening in Sheffield, all very different, distinct areas. So again, let's say we've had 80 to 100 units sold in the last month or even the last 6 months, but there's only three available in terms of supply. What that indicates is that people are holding on to their properties. They're not necessarily selling them right now. It's not to say that they won't sell, but it is looking at, well, is there a number available that we can actually get into? And that would you'd only find out that information by going and looking at pulling the lists. So you may find that a county that has a very low supply but strong demand can still work, but you have to take all of these factors into account when doing the research. And the last point, which is obviously the most important, is the margin. So, from a margin perspective, Frank, I know obviously when you're speaking on the phone, you're talking to our sellers, what's the kind of the sweet spot that you're typically looking for as an indicator of, shall we do this deal? Shall we do this deal?
Well, I want to know that we can buy at approximately 40 to 60 cents on the dollar and sell for approximately 60 to 80 cents on the dollar. So in other words, we don't want to buy garbage cheap that we can't ever sell, and we don't want to pay real retail prices or a premium on the other end of the spectrum. This middle ground, sometimes even 30 cents on the dollar, 40 cents, 50 cents on the dollar, will then turn around and make you 60, 80, 90 cents on the dollar. And it's really sort of a form of arbitrage, I would say.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And I think, and you've got two ways of looking at that. There is the percentages on the dollar, and there's also what kind of gross profit do you want to look for? And certainly we typically are looking for a minimum of 5K. But again, it does depend on the deal. If we have $1,000 deal that's going to make 3 to 4K, we're probably not going to turn it away. Sometimes we might give it to a student, which we've done in the past. But more often than not, we're going to look at a minimum return on investment for us. So you can do it both ways, but certainly very important to make sure that both the margin, the supply and demand are all going to be equitable in terms of what you're going to end up with. Uh, we've got very excited before about markets that look fantastic on paper, gone to pull the lists, and there's literally 60 names on the list, or maybe even less. There's just no land available. It's all been bought. So sometimes you have to just pull back and start again. So let's move on and we'll understand the key is in understanding the demand. So what we're looking for here is when you're doing your own analysis, and we're going to give you a little task to do today to go away and just do a bit of research, just to get your head around what this looks like if you're doing it yourself. We want to look at the number of lots available. We want to look at the number of lots sold or under contract. And we're aiming for a sold rate of 50% or higher, realistically. Now, this is just an indication. It's to enable you to move quickly and test. As Frank indicated yesterday, some of the markets that we currently market in do not hit these KPIs, but that's because, excuse me, we've been doing this for a long time and we have relationships with excellent realtors who can beat the market. But if you're getting involved and you're starting from scratch, I would be highly recommending you look at least a 50% sold through rate to protect yourself in terms of you don't want to be buying a property and then find it's going to stick around on the market for years. And, because we do a lot of analysis every day, we see those properties that have been on the market for 360 days, 420 days, and they're just sitting there. Our aim is, as Frank says, to get in and out very, very quickly. It's to make a turn on the land. It's not to get retail. It's basically to wholesale it. So these kind of percentages will really lock in your ability to do deals and not get affected by a downtime in the market, particularly if you're buying at, say, 30 to 40%. You've put it on the market, say 60 to 70%. Worst case scenario, you can't sell it. You've got so much margin to play with, doesn't really matter too much. Anything else you'd add on that, Frank?
Yeah, just the sold rate. Let's make clear what period of time that is. Is that per annum, per
Yeah,
month, per
yeah, that will
decade?
that will be based on the data sources we're going to show tonight. It will be based on an annual sold rate. Uh,
Right.
Clearly, you can get data for 3 months and 6 months, but it's a lot more complex to do that. We're not going to show that tonight. We don't really have time. But this is on a yearly basis. So essentially, you're looking for a county where 50% of the lots that we're putting on the market were sold by the end of the year. Now, given that your lots, provided you want to get into this business and start doing this, are less than the market rate, so 20 to 30% less, they should sell a lot quicker. Okay, so we'll move on and we're going to do a demo. So we're going to do a demo of a website called Landwatch. Now I'm just going to switch tabs. Can you let me know if you can see this tab, Frank? Landwatch?
Yes.
You can.
Uh-huh. Yep. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay. So this is a website in the US. It's free to access and use. It's very, very useful for several reasons. Uh, One, it is one of the primary listing sites for land. You can list land anywhere, and you may have heard of an aggregate site called Zillow. There's also ones like Ohm and a couple of others, Realtor.com. All of these do list land, and you can do this same exercise on any of them. The reason why we like this is it's very clear and distinct and evident very, very quickly without really doing that much work, what it is you're looking at and what it is you need to get down in terms of the figures. So go to landwatch.com, and one of the tasks we're going to give you later is to go and do this yourself. So do take some notes if you're not in terms of how we do this. And what we're going to be doing is just getting some data from here to show you how easy it is. So I'm going to start by just selecting Texas. So down this left-hand side, you've got a whole bunch of stuff you can choose. So the parcel size, property types, bedrooms and bathrooms, because this also does have houses on, availability, sale type, etc. So I'm going to choose Texas. And that's going to basically go drill down to Texas. So you can see here on the screen all of the counties in Texas. I mean, it's huge, just so, so big. Now, we're going to carry on down the page for now. And what we're going to do is go down to property types, click on see more. And what we're interested in is the undeveloped property type. So we want to drill down and look at, well, what are the lots that haven't had anything done to them? And you see, if you go to the right-hand side, got 10 acres here, 168 here, because I mean, look at this, 168 acres for $150, 150,000.
It's crazy.
Uh, 10 acres there. So this is all what we call vacant raw land.
How
Right.
about that 56 for 56 acres for 700? I mean,
Wow. 56 million. Yeah,
yeah, look at
that's
that.
a rant.
700.
Yeah, I don't know why that's in there, but anyhow, let's go back up here. So what I'm going to do is, again, just for the uh, this is just for using as an example. We're going to choose not 10 acres, just to kind of bring down those numbers a little bit. And what you'll see is happening here is these numbers are all changing. So Fort Worth was about 3,600. It's gone down to 2,800. If you click on see more, you can see all the details for all of the different counties. So these are all counties in the state of Texas. Now, what I'm going to do now is just go down a little bit further, and I'm going to put in a custom price of a minimum of $1,000. And I'm also going to put in a maximum of $100,000 just for now. Again, all this is doing is just giving you some indication of 0 to 10 acres lots that are available where the price point is up to $100,000, but no less than $1,000 because that land is often, certainly in Texas, could be a bit, it could be land that you don't want to end up with, let's put it that way. So right now you'll see that you've got on the availability front, there's four indicators you can look at. There's available and under contract, and there's also sold. So what we're going to do is just take off under contract because that is essentially sold, and then this will give us the numbers that we want to look for each of these. So what we're going to encourage you to do is for one state of your choice, I'd only suggest you do it on one. Just do a few of these to get your understanding of what is available in that region. And you don't have to list all of them, of course. I would say list, maybe 3 to 4 and just get the details of this through. So let's look at, say, Blacklands as a region. So this will take us directly into Blacklands. So you can see it's got uh, quite a number of regions. And what we're going to do here is,
That's a nice area, by the way. That's between Dallas, Fort Worth above, and
yeah,
Austin below. We pretty much drove
yeah.
right through there.
I'm just going to come out of there because I accidentally chose the region map, whereas I wanted to go into a county.
Counties, yeah.
Let me go into El Paso. It's the top one. So going to El Paso, and this is going to show us we've got 470 listings that are available. Now, again, up to you how much work you want to do on this. But what we would be typically doing at this stage is just getting the sold figures and what is available. So right now we have got 470,
Yep, 470, yep.
and then you've got 170 sold and 32 under contract. So if you look at that and say, well, okay, we've got 170 plus 32 sold, that's 202
Yep.
divided by 470, that's a 42.97% sell-through rate.
So a bit low, but potentially manageable,
Precisely.
depending on some other circumstances.
Yeah. So what we could do then is just click off El Paso at the top. It'll bring everything back up again. And then we'll go down to Hill County and do the same thing. So Hill County, we'll bring it up and we'll show that we've got 414 available. Now this has got 27 and 1. So it's had 28 sold, but it's got 414 available, which is a 6.7% sell-through rate. So that is pretty low. Now, do bear in mind that this is just an indication at this stage. And what you can do is obviously go into further detail and be very specific. So we could say, well, look, I'm only interested in the 5 to 10 acres. Oh, I'm not interested in anything below that. So let's just see what that looks like.
It should filter us out a fair bit.
Yeah. And that's showing you that you've got one available and 6 sold. So what that indicates is the sell-through rate is over 100%. So if you were to find something, that would sell pretty quickly, although there's not very many of them. So again, you can do so many different things with this. It's really, really useful. And it's pretty easy to do too. Now, if we just go back to the main page and then let's just put in Florida, for example. So there's a couple of people interested in Florida. So there we go. We've got the region map coming up. Uh, we'll come down, put 1,000 to 100,000, add that in,
Let's see what we get.
and then we'll go down and we'll click on undeveloped. And then I'm going to choose not 10 acres on here, and actually what I'm going to do is because there is quite a number of smaller lots available in Florida. I'm going to go 0 to 2 just to see what that looks like because there's a lot of subdivision opportunities there. And by that, I mean a developer's created a subdivision, they've never finished it, but there's an opportunity to possibly get into that and sell it on quite quickly. So if we go into Lee County, which is one of the top ones, you can see here that we have got a lot of property available. I've got 4,906. And then in terms of what's been sold under contract, that is total of 390. So it's a 7.9% sell-through rate, which is quite low.
Low again,
But
yep.
but again, these are just indications to help you decide where to market. It's not to say this isn't an area you can't market to. It's just saying it might be a little bit more problematic. So let's look at Polk County, which I think we've done Polk County in the past, so we know that does kind of work. Uh, what we got? Okay, so we got 140 sold, 39 under contract, which is 179 divided by the 927, so 20% sell-through rate. So again, these are indications, and if you do, I'd say 3 to 5 of these, you'll get a good idea of what's going on. Obviously, the more detailed you go in terms of acreage, price, the more valid your results are going to be. Uh, if you're just interested in looking at the county as a whole, I would suggest you do something like maybe 5 to 100 acres, and that will give you pretty much everything that you might be interested in. But
Yeah, everything that's worthwhile.
yeah, for sure. Okay, so again, hopefully everyone's still with me, still following. If you have any questions, chuck them in the chat bar. We'll be happy to answer them later on. But that is Landwatch kind of illustrated for you. So a very good tool. The other thing which is really good about it too is you can go up to the top and find an agent. So if you find a piece of land and you want to sell it, you can then just go and find an agent. So we can put in Polk County, Florida. It'll come up with all of the agents. It'll show you how many listings they've got, show you the acreage, price range, quite a lot of relevant information. So you can then use that as a call out guide to call these people and see if you can do business with them. So very, very useful. Anything you'd add at this stage, just in terms of land watch and using this as a tool for finding counties, Frank?
Well, I think you can always get deeper and dig harder, but Landwatch works very good for getting you into motion. And, we've done counties where we thought we'd hit a home run because the numbers were so good, and you can hear the tumbleweeds go by. And then we've had other counties where we said, well, it's a maybe. They've done even better than expected. So the main thing is get in motion. Matthew, you talked before about people that have been working on this for a while. I have a guy that participated in my Thursday afternoon mastermind, right? A free one, month after month after month. Great guy. But every week he had a different question about, oh, yeah, but this software says this and that says that. And of course, I encourage him to keep moving. Well, you know what? He's gotten nowhere. Well, other people have come in after him and have made 2 or 3 deals already. It's all in the motion and all in the knowledge that we share with you. Should we work together? I mean, it's not rocket science. There is some work. You do have to adhere to certain principles, but you can also get moving this month. Even though it's a big holiday month, you can still get moving this month, not a doubt in my mind.
Absolutely. Okay, so moving on from Landwatch, we're going to look at pulling landowner lists. So let's say you found a county and you think, you know what, that looks pretty good. Let's try it out. So we'll just select some random ones to give you a demo in a minute. So we got a couple of tools that we can introduce you to, and we have referral links for these, so you get free stuff. Typically, the free stuff is you get a certain number of free leads by coming through our referral link. So if If you decide you don't want to work with us and you go elsewhere and do your own thing, that's fine. But just make sure you tap us up for our referral links. Uh, these two tools are quite similar. I'm going to be focusing on showing you Priced today. Priced is been around for some time now, probably like 10 plus years. They're accessed directly into the main data platform, which pulls a lot of this data out. We have used that platform in the past, platform called DataTree, now owned by First Analytics Group. It's good, but it's not very user friendly in terms of pulling lists, hence why we don't use it anymore. Price is very, very good at defining criteria, making sure that you get the right kind of lists and be able to pull those very, very quickly. Zamplo is a kind of a new kid on the block. Frank has a personal relationship with the owner, so he knows him pretty well, and it's great. It is really good, and we have access to both, and we use them both. Uh, it has slightly more additional, uh, I guess, criteria that you can use. It's particularly good at isolating things such as landlocked property. Uh, you would just want to tell people what a landlocked property is, Frank?
Sure, landlocked means you have no official legal access to your property. In the States, you are not, how would I say this? In the States, you're allowed access to your land. The only problem is, let's say you're in Nevada and you're the fifth lot off the highway. In order for you to gain legal access, you have to negotiate with those four people between the road and your parcel. Oh, and all it takes is one person to say, "Oh, I don't want to be bothered," or you can't get a hold of them, or they don't want to negotiate fairly, and you're stuck. So we try to avoid landlocked as much as we can. Um,
Yeah.
Now, there are opportunities. If you get something on the cheap and you're willing to put the time in and take a bit of a punt on things, you can make a ton of dosh. You know what I mean? But we like easy, we like simple, we like rapid.
Absolutely. So Zampler gives you some additional filters that Price doesn't. So landlocked is one of them, so you can exclude them from a list. It also allows you to exclude properties that have got, say, quite severe slopes on them and even floodplains. Uh, so both very different. Price points on them. Price starts at about $50 a month. Sampler is about $40 a month. So they're very, very comparable. Uh, and they both work very, very well. And you can pull lists, uh, which you can then use into your messaging system to essentially contact people. So we're going to do a demo of Priced for you so you can see exactly how that works. So we are in Priced right now. I'm just going to choose some criteria that we've already had just so it's quicker to get in and don't have to do all of the little filters. But essentially what you do is go into here and you can put in anything you want in terms of accounting. It'll come up with uh, some availability for you. But what I'm going to show you first is the advanced search. So what we've chosen on here is to do a minimum acreage of 5 up to 100. And this is going to split out the acreages into 5 acre increments. So what this means is you don't have to mail everything at once. And one of the things we always advise people to do is just because you can get a list of 2,000, if you've not got the capacity to actually manage and mail and market to that list, you don't have to do it straight away. You can just select the first 4 or 5 acreages and test those as a test. So you can see on here we put in an estimated minimum purchase price of $1,000. All of these software programs will use their own algorithms to calculate what they think the price is worth. These algorithms are somewhat hit and miss, but they are an indication. So if it says the minimum price of the land is $1,000 plus, it's pretty much going to be around that mark. There may be some that we don't get because we've excluded them, but certainly for us, in terms of the volume we do, we don't really mind too much. Now it's also got in here offer price percent at 25. Uh, this is effectively if you're making blind offers or even neutral offers, you can utilize this as a price point, as a data point to come out. So every lot you pull will have an offer price associated with it. Uh, you don't have to have that in. We typically leave that in because it's just the standard thing we've done over time. Sometimes we'll change that. But if you want to mail out with an actual price and say, hey, I notice you've got lot 55 on St. John's Avenue, we can offer you $36,000, which is 25% off the off price. You can do that. And then you'll see the next is pricing characteristics. So this has got price with all comps, for sale, or with sole comps. Now, an interesting point here is when you're comping, what do you comp on? So we typically are doing, I don't know, thousands of comps a month, and we are looking at typically sold comps. Reason why? A sold comp is the only real clear indication of what the market will bear. Clearly, on the available comps that are for sale, people, different realtors are trying different price points all the time. We will look at for sale comps if there is no sold comps or very few. And typically we'll be wanting to look at least five sold comps to get an indication of what that price of the land is worth. But
Yes.
in terms of what price is going to do, and it's the same as Amplo too, they're going to create their pricing algorithm in terms of, well, we think the land's worth X based on sold comps only. And when we go onto one of the further screens, you'll see how that kind of works in practice. So it's a very, very sophisticated system. Then we've got land use. So I'm not going to go through all of these right now because there are dozens of them. But just to kind of say, the ones that we've selected are the typical ones that we're looking at that are going to have some opportunity for us. So it's anything from agricultural land to recreational acreage to multifamily lots, greenbelt, forest, pasture, vacant land. And the reason why there's so many in here is because every county, alas, does have the opportunity, and they take it, believe you me, to create their own type of land use. So this is why we have to have so many, because you might go to Connecticut and what they call vacant land there is actually completely different to in Texas, where it's called something different. So that's something that can trip you up, hence why we have a wide selection of land use in here. Then we go down to owner filters. Okay, so this is again interesting. It's very interesting. Uh, we typically pull everybody, and we also include anybody that has got a do not mail tag next to them because we are not mailing. If you were doing direct mail, you would 100% exclude the do not mails because you would
Right.
want to get a lawsuit against you. Clearly, we don't care because we're not mailing. But what you can do is click on in-state owners and in-county owners. Now, what does this mean? Effectively, essentially means that if you want to exclude people that own a lot in-state, then that could be advantageous to you because it could mean that, let's say, someone owns stock in Florida, but they live in Ohio or Colorado or whatever. So it can really help in terms of their appetite to want to sell. They could definitely be more motivated than, let's say, someone that lives in, I don't know, let's say South Carolina that owns a little lot just down the road from them in South Carolina. They could be less motivated. Again,
Right.
this is a personal preference. I mean, what would you say, Frank, in terms of it's been a mixture, right? In terms of who we've done business with.
Yeah, well, the guy from Ohio is not nipping down to Florida every week to enjoy his property. We can safely assume that. And then on the other hand, if Farmer Joe owns land, a mile or two away from or adjacent to a particular parcel of land, is he even going to want to sell it? So sweet spots in the middle. You want somebody ideally in state or maybe out of state, but not right up against the property. But even then, Matthew, I have a guy in north of South Carolina. They bought like 40 acres, and in order to pay for their part that they're keeping, say the 25 or 28 that they're keeping, they're selling off the other 12 to 15 at a discount, mind you, but to recoup most, if not all, of their initial investment. So it's kind of clever. And that's just
Yeah.
one example of, for everything that it's, you'd say, oh, it absolutely works like this. There's always one or two anomalies, but in the main, this is what we stick with.
Yeah, agreed. But you can see there's so many filters in here. Corporate owned, we're going to just exclude that for now, just so you can see what the numbers are of non-corporate owned. We will market to both because we don't really care too much. But if you're getting started, you perhaps want to avoid marketing to LLCs and charities, etc. Although you can still exclude some of them in a further filter. So all hope is not lost, even if you put in everything on here. But we're just going to exclude them for now. We move down to the next level, and we've got assessor tax filters. And effectively, this is where you can use the assessor values to look at who do you want to market, what is the assessed values of the land, and if you want to use the estimates of what the land is worth. We find generally these are pretty much pointless, so we don't use them.
Yeah.
However, one thing that I would say could be useful and is a growing area, and we are starting testing this next year, is tax delinquency. And you've got this thing here, delinquency, and you can choose is delinquent. We're not going to choose anything on here. We're just going to choose no filter. So there's nothing on there. But you can literally choose people that do back taxes on their properties. And again, they may be more open to selling their property. Okay, property information filters. Again, we leave this pretty much blank. You can go down and change all of this. So you can say, well, actually, you know what? I don't want to deal with any HOAs. So I'm going to select that one. You may go in and say, well, this particular zoning that I'm interested in. There's so many things you can do. Well, we're just going to run through the rest of this and just pull a list. Flood zones, pretty much, we include them all at this stage. Sale information filters, we're not really bothered about that either. And listing information filters, this is just the status of when it was listed. Again, we're not really too bothered about this. So let's go back and choose a county. Give me a county, Frank, any, just give me one.
Aiken, South Carolina, Aiken. There you go.
So we'll choose Aiken, South Carolina. You can do two things here. You can get a count or you can do the search. We're going to do the search purely so I can show you the next set of pages and what that looks like. But if you do the count, it'll give you a number in terms of what you're looking at. So remember, this is going to bring back all the records available in Aiken County that are landowner records. You can see this
There we are.
5,752. So that's a good number to go after. And what you'll see happens in priced system is they list the counties, so not the counties, the acreage by it's an algorithm they use, and the ones that are at the top are the ones that they're most confident about their price. So what this is showing on 40 to 44 acres, 0.99, is there's 142 records. There's four comps in total. So there's not a lot of comps, but they believe that their offer price is at 25%, 1794. The market price is 7177. Now, because there's not a lot of comps there, I think I'm just going to have a look at this one here. So this one is 25 acres. It's got 400 owner records, 24 comps. And what you can see is as soon as you select it, it comes up with uh, information you can click on. So look at the for sale comps and see what that looks like. So you can see here, you've got a whole bunch of comps. Sees where they pull from, Redfin, Zillow, Realtor.com, and it shows you the city, when they were sold, how many acreage, what it was sold for. And this is really showing that, the average offer price is 44,000 for 22 acres. So pretty interesting. You can also click on city pricing, and this will bring it up by city. So again, really interesting and relevant information, particularly if you're going down in terms of to a city level and doing business in there. You can see that they have this whole thing called a Z score. I'm not going to get into how that all works right now, but the higher the Z score, the more confident they are in the pricing. So they're very confident on Graniteville, less confident on, say, Ridge Spring. So again, this is an indication of what's going on. Now, what we're going to do, just for the ease of showing you how this works in practice, is we're not going to pull all the records. We're just going to select those 403 records there for 20 acres and click on continue. This is going to come up with a whole bunch of configurations of what you can draw down, where we've already got a default configuration that we pull. Pretty much we pull everything. There's a few things that we don't, but you can pull everything. And to be honest, it won't make that much difference. Price and confidence score. We'll put that in, see what that looks like. Well, I'm not actually going to pull the list, to be fair. I'm just showing you. So click on
Yeah.
continue again, and that will come up with scrub filters. So who are we going to scrub out of the list that comes through? So for us, we're not interested in anyone that has a blank ownership record. So if we don't know who the owner is, we can't market to them. So waste of time us pulling that record. We're not
Yes.
interested in government owners at this stage either, so we're going to ignore that. Blank addresses, we're also not interested in. Uh, and this used to have overseas, but that doesn't seem to do that anymore. But fair enough. So we'll continue, and this will bring up the final page, which is where you can get all of your add-ons. So what you'll see here is a load of different add-ons. So the first one is skip trace data. We're going to talk more about that tomorrow, but this is effectively the appending of records with phone numbers and email addresses. So these records that you're getting, which are pennies, cents, effectively, do not have phone or email addresses on them. So you always have to go and skip trace this data in order to append it. We're not going to use Price for this. We use another service, but you can if you wish. You can also generate a campaign map if you're doing direct mailing, and you can remove duplicate owners, which we always do. What this means is that if you've got a list of, say, 400, which is quite small to be fair, what it will go in and say is, okay, this owner's got 4 properties. So I'm only going to pull one of those properties and send you that one because what happens is we market to people and they come back and say, well, no, I'm not interested in selling this property, but I do have another one and it's here. And then we speak to them. It also here says check road access. And this is 4 cents a record and check waterfront, 4 cents a record. In Zamplo, they give you this for free, but it's a slightly different pricing structure. So it's up to you
Right.
if you want to have this. But this basically says you can exclude property with access or no access. So you can go down and just look at landlocked properties. Same with the waterfront if you're interested in that kind of properties. You can also add on the nearest soil comps. We don't really typically do that. And you've got additional information here for topography, wetlands, and flood zones. We're not going to choose any of that. We're just going to remove the duplicate records and we're going to just sort records by APN. APN, what does that stand for, Frank?
Assigned parcel number.
Thank you very much. Sorry for putting you on the spot there.
No,
So
that's okay.
APN is essentially the record which is unique to that county, detailing who that land is. Now, they may have an APN that's the same in Florida and Texas, hence why you have to only look at it at a county by county level.
Right.
We'll go to checkout here. We're not going to pull the record. Oh, we are. Okay. Well, that's fine. We can use it tomorrow. I forgot that I got 3 records on here.
Oops.
That's fine. So that record's going to come through.
That's
Uh,
great. Well,
and
we'll get a sale out of it anyway. It's
yeah,
fine.
we'll do some of this, not a problem. So typically what it would say is it would come up with what's the cost for that, but because we have so many free records, because we get what happens with priced is every time you get duplicate records, they essentially take that number off. And every time we send referrals to them, they also give us free records and they give our clients free records. So hence why we have quite a number of free records. But hopefully that gives you an indication of how the software works and how powerful it is. Again, any questions, please let us know. Put it in the chat bar. I don't see any just yet, but you're probably a bit bamboozled by everything, but it's fine. But please do put them in there and we can answer them later on. So that is now winging its way through the system. We'll get an email in approximately 5 to 10 minutes with the full list. We can then take that list and we can then go and skip trace it. All right. So,
David has a question, Gov.
well, let's just
We're
wait.
gonna wait, yeah, just to let you know.
Yeah, we'll come back to it in a moment. Okay.
Yep.
So, Debbie, one of our clients, you just want to give a quick update on what she's been up to.
She's a well, great student, very dedicated, and is taking this seriously. And she chose Washington State for her first time at bat, right?
Yeah,
Achieved
yeah,
some really incredible results. She had 800 leads and had her first signed offer in just 9 days. That's literally a week and a half, people. So out
yeah,
of 800 leads were generated, that's your total prospects that we identified in her target market. And then from start to her first signed contract, that would have been 9 days.
yeah.
So, will your mileage vary? Sure, we've had people do it first day out, had people take a little longer. Um, but her success does demonstrate the power of really using strategic insight to choose your market selection. More importantly, it shows you that consistent action, the universe rewards you. If you do this in fits and starts, and you're working, you're not working, you're doing it, you're not doing it, you never gain momentum. She got momentum in theory straight out of the gate, right? And again, by following this blueprint, she was able to transform her land flipping dreams into reality.
Definitely.
And that's what your average punter is capable of. I mean, this is
Yeah.
very, it looks, when you look at those numbers, your eyes might glaze over, but I promise you it all makes sense very quickly. I'm a salesman, so when I see stuff like that, I'm like, what? I just give me a telephone and I want to speak to these people. But this market selection, I had done it in the beginning of the business. Like I say, old school, we'd have a road atlas, that you'd get from AA. You'd draw a radius around, say, Memphis, Tennessee, 50 miles, and you'd go like this, and who should we mail to? So there's science behind this, there's targeting. It's very easy to get the right yields and the correct sort of um, you know, profile of a land parcel that you would want to make an offer on even before you hit the send key. Now you sent out to how many before? Four out to eight out to what you just did there was 400 or so, Matthew?
Yeah, it's 400 leads on the 20 to 24 acres.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and that's a good amount, a fair amount at a good price.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so we'll move on from that and talk about action step. Now, I know I didn't see anybody yesterday do their action step, and that's fine if you've done it for yourself personally and don't want to share it because you're shy. I appreciate that. The action step from yesterday was just writing down a reason why land would work for you and the kind of profit levels that you'd be looking for and how you could make this work. Today is all about doing some research. So using LandWatch, what I'd like you to do is go and look at some counties and select at least 2 to 3 counties that meet your criteria. Remember, your criteria can be anything you wish. So I know we've got some people on the call that were interested in Florida. Other people may not really care where they want to go, but they're more interested in, say, particular units, larger, smaller, it doesn't really matter. But please go and do some research. It won't take you very long, probably take 15 minutes max, 20 at best. And then you'll then be able to come tomorrow to talk about what you found and you can share it in the Facebook group if you like to, and we'll give you any feedback you want, ask any questions, not a problem. But
Right.
please do go and at least research some counties and just get used to using LandWatch because it's a really, really powerful tool and it will give you some confidence that actually there are counties out there that can meet your criteria. Then you can use this worksheet, which I will put in the Facebook group to document your process. And what you'd be looking to do is put down the number of available properties, average property price, which, to be fair, you would just get from the first one or two pages. You would just scan down the list and look at, well, okay, if I'm only looking at, say, let's say you're looking at 10 to 20 acres, and you've got price points of 25, 50, 40, 30, you'd make an average, put that down there. Days on market, each of the lots will show you what the days on market is, so you can pull that out. Any recent sales, you can just look at the sold data and then what the profit margin potential is. If you were offering at say 20 to 40% of market value and you're selling at 60 to 70%, what kind of profit margin would that make for you? Very, very quick to do. And as I say, I'll just give you a good indication of what the potential is in a market that you might be interested in doing business on.
This is all very easy to do. There's nothing hard here where you have to have a degree from Oxford, let's say. This is just common sense stuff. You get used to the wording and what they're looking for, but the system does most all the work for you. That's the amazing thing. How far this stuff has come in the past 5 years or so, Matthew. It's quite amazing.
Agreed entirely. And there are more research tools that you can use, uh, lots and lots and lots. So I just want to pick on a few, and then Frank, maybe you can pick up on some of the others that I haven't mentioned. So county property records. So every county has their own what's known as a GIS system, and you can access this and get additional levels of detail that doesn't necessarily always come through on the on LandWatch, for instance. But this is really good for understanding things about tax, also any property details. And as I say, because every county has their own system, they're all fairly similar. So once you've used one, you can use pretty much any of them. I think the other one that I'd pick up on in terms of this list is the land comps. So we have a dedicated comp analyst that does all our comps for us. I used to do that role, so I'm very familiar with it. And the land comps is probably one of the most important things you're going to do in terms of making sure that you're buying the land at the right price. And it is both easy to do and sometimes difficult. And the only way you can really get to grips with it is to understand what's going on at a detailed local level. And this will be using tools such as Zillow, Realtor.com, Zome, Redfin, things like that, to look at the comps, pull them out, put them into a spreadsheet, and understand, okay, if I'm buying this lot, what's within a 20-mile radius, for instance, a 25-mile radius. Because remember, the US is very, very large. So you're not necessarily going to have something next door, but you are going to have something typically within 20, 25 miles. And getting that sales data, remember, it's got to be sales data, what's sold, is going to give you a really good indication of what your land could sell for. We only really look at for sale comps when we are struggling on sold comps. But typically, you will find some sold comps and you'll be able to use that to make really good offers. Uh, any others you'd like to pick up on here?
Well, I think the other three that I would group together would be development trends, target community analysis, and zoning resources so
Yeah.
that you can see what are the trends here. Are they putting a new M road in, a new airport, a new data center for a computer company, an internet company? Demographics, you know, is the crime rate above or below your normal marketplace? Zoning, how tight and how strict are they in zoning? How easy is it to change from a residential zoning to a commercial zoning, etc. The market connection's great. I mean, you should always be networking, but I would use all the other stuff sort of first before that and get familiar with that.
Yeah, I think on the market connections front, that one is a slow burn. It's something that can be very valuable, but it takes time.
That's something you do every day, you know?
Yeah, and I think one thing that Frank can attest to is building those relationships is very time consuming. It's also very energy draining sometimes, and you don't always get the right information. But when you do find the right realtors, it is the difference
Oh
between
man,
selling in a day and selling in 2 years. It really is that good. So,
it's night and day, the contrast. Absolutely, Matthew.
so certainly if you're starting to explore an area and get into a particular state and you can see that some of your counties are fairly close together, that's when you can start doing these connections. And look, all of these are done over the phone or online. You know, it's only because I was in the States for an extended period of time that I actually went and met some of our title attorneys and some of our realtors and just carried on building relationships we've already built over many years on the phone. We didn't do that to begin with. We had no need to. But that's kind of one of the plus points that will help you accelerate your business once you get going on it. But it's not needed to begin with. In fact, Frank, I'm pretty certain that the first 5 to 8 deals we sold on our own on Craigslist or Facebook, right?
Right. Yep. No realtor.
Yeah.
Nope.
So you don't need a realtor to do this. It does help, but you don't need one. All right. So, uh, what is coming tomorrow? Lots of things, but before then, let's just see what questions we've got, and then we'll go on to what we're going to talk about tomorrow. So, David says, how much would that have cost approximately? You know what, David, off the top of my head, I'm not entirely sure, but I'm going to estimate anything from $20 to $40 max. Not that much. I mean,
It's negligible.
we've been pulling lists of thousands, and it's like 200, $300. It's not very much. So it depends. Uh, but yeah, that smaller list, I would say $20 to $30 max. Yeah. Any other questions? Please put them in the chat before I just wrap up and say what we're going to talk about tomorrow. Okay. Well, if you've got any, put them in. I'll just talk about what we're going to go through tomorrow. So tomorrow, very exciting. Essentially, we're going to be looking at doing a campaign, and Frank is going to be demoing our SMS messaging system, which, to be fair, he's not done for a while because he's normally on the phones. But this is something he used to do every day for about 3 years. So I'm sure it'll be like riding a bike. He'll get back in.
Let's hope so. It'll be fun watching me at any
Yeah,
rate.
yeah, it'll be fun. But anyhow, we're going to talk tomorrow about how you craft a message so you can get to landowners and they don't mark your message as spam. We're going to look at how you send a batch of SMS messages, not emails, although you can do that, but SMS messages. And then we're also hopefully going to show you how you handle responses in real time because we're going to send a batch tomorrow around 150. And we should get some responses from that. We should see them coming back in straight away. But if
Right.
not, we'll have messages in the system that we can respond to, and we can just show you how we kind of manage that process and how easy it is, really. Uh, now bear in mind we're messaging 1,200 people a day, so we're messaging a lot of people. We are going to see response levels vary depending on our list and who we're sending those to. But certainly, that is going to give you a really good, clear indication of how you actually take this data, put it into the system, and then end up with people responding to you. So, thanks everyone for joining. If you have any questions, please pop them in the chat bar now. We'll run the meeting for another minute or so and then we'll close it down. But if you do have any questions, Frank and I are here if you want to ask us anything about the lists, how to select counties. Please just shoot your message in the chat box.
It's
Anything,
amazing.
anything else you would add, Frank?
It's just amazing to me how the tools have become so much more user friendly. Yeah.
Yeah,
In a way, not to sound like an old git that says, oh, we used to walk to school uphill both ways in the snow, but man, this stuff, you push a few buttons, out goes your list.
yeah,
And yeah, it's work, but it's not hard work. You just
yeah,
have to work smart. And basically what you want to do is follow our system, which we're going to talk about tomorrow as well, how you can take advantage of that. You're
yeah.
free to do this on your own. We also want to let you know that we've got sort of a hand-holding method that will move you along very much further, very much faster in the main. So we'll cover all that tomorrow.
Absolutely. All right, grand. Well, I don't think there are any more questions, so we'll let you crack off for the evening. Now, remember, please do try and find a little bit of time, 15, 20 minutes to go and research some counties. Just go and play around on Land Watch. Even if you don't come up with all the data, just have a little play, see what you come up with. And if you find anything interesting, just share it in the group. Remember, there are so many counties out there. Just because you found one doesn't mean to say it's any good until you've marketed it. You just don't know. So don't be afraid of sharing. There are dozens of counties out there. We've marketed to Aiken, we've marketed to Polk, we've marketed to so many. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. But you can only really find that out by pushing the button.
Well, that's the thing, really. You have to get,
Question here about any advice on choosing counties and a bit more on valuing the land. You'd have to be a bit more specific,
yeah, that's what I was going to say.
David. I mean, in terms of choosing the counties, the larger the acreage, the more it's going to cost. Okay. So when we first started doing land, we were focusing on 0 to 10 acres because that is an optimum level to go for and it's cheaper. Now we typically do 20 to 60 acres. It's a bit larger. In terms of valuing the land, that's really a case of going through Land Watch, pulling off, say, the first 10 on that page, just as an indication, and looking at, say,
Right.
there's one available for 20 acres and it's 60K. There's one available for 21 acres and it's 45K. There's one available for 22 acres and it's 58K. Just putting those into a form or a spreadsheet, and then from there, calculating the average price. What you can do from there is say, well, look, if I was to offer 25 to 45%, what would that offer price be? And if I was to sell it at 60 to 70%, what would my margin be? Very, very simple. Don't get, you know, just follow that. And I'll put a sheet up in the group so you can just go in and do it. And I'll put the instructions about fill it out as well. Uh, I'm not sure when it will be done. It will definitely be done by tomorrow morning, first thing, but I might get to it tonight.
One of the things to consider, Matthew, is there's not really a lot of overhead involved in this business either. I mean, the realtor's commission, if you use a realtor, comes out of the deal, never comes out of your pocket. The closing costs, you never send a check in, that comes out of the deal. It's basically data management and your phone lines and your follow-up system, your CRM. That's it. And the returns, like that one in Texas, I get all emotional when I talk about that one because what a hell of a payday that was, Matthew, and for what, three to
Oh,
five
yeah,
hours that or whatever I put into it. I mean, it was
yeah,
negligible.
definitely.
I work all day long for 30 to 50,000 hours a deal, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
So we hope
Brilliant.
you guys are finding this helpful, and we look forward to seeing everybody tomorrow. For this is going to be where we tie it all together and show you how to get moving quickly and easily and confidently if this is something you're interested in.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Frank. And we'll see everyone tomorrow. Have a good evening and thank you for joining us.
Yeah. Bye, everybody. See you
Bye.
tomorrow. Okay. Cheers.
Bye bye.